What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Gameball with your host, Matt Montia. Today, we have a lot to talk about. There was a big trade in the NBA that sent Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers. Then we have two big divisional matchups, the first being between the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens, and the second being between the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. So the first thing I want to dive into is the Indiana Pacers trade that sent Siakam to the Pacers in exchange for 3 first-round picks and Bruce Brown. And let's start off with the Raptors. I think this was an A-plus trade for the Raptors. Why? Well, the first thing I'll say is they got 3 firsts and a quality starting player, or somebody that you could even flip for another pick in Bruce Brown, for a power forward that A, doesn't fit your time frame of success. He's 29. Scotty Barnes is 22. And then second, you get those picks in a Bruce Brown for a player that you weren't going to re-sign, so you get tremendous value for a player you weren't going to re-sign. And third, it opens up holes and shot opportunities for the younger players to step up and prove if they are a 1, a 2, or a 3, mainly Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and RJ Barrett. So I thought this was a great trade for the Raptors because what other value could the Raptors have gone, right, for Siakam? If there's more value out there, I know people might be thinking, why don't we get Jonathan Kuminga, right? If there was more value out there, that trade would have been made. 3 first-round picks, even though they're going to be late first-round picks, still is a quality haul for somebody you aren't going to re-sign, because those picks might turn into, maybe you find a diamond in the rough, but most likely really good rotation pieces. Maybe somebody that has an X factor to him, a 3-point shooter, right? Or a dominant big man that can get some good rotational minutes. For a player that you aren't going to keep around, for players that fit your time frame of success, that's a smart trade. That's a good trade. Secondly, as I mentioned, it opens up holes for your guys, your young guys, your players to step up. Mainly Scotty Barnes, IQ, and RJ. Scotty Barnes this season has already taken a huge leap from last season, right? Last season, he played 35 minutes a game. And this season, he plays 35 minutes a game as well. But last season, he averaged 15 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game. He shot 46% from the field and 28% from behind the arc. He also collectively got about 2 blocks/steals per game. This season, same amount of minutes, 20 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game, 48% from the field, 37% from behind the arc, and he gets you about 2.5 blocks, steals per game. First off, the numbers, they don't lie. He has skyrocketed in points per game by about 5 points. 2 more rebounds per game, more assists per game, a much more effective and efficient shooter, especially from behind the arc. Defensive numbers look good, but he's evolved in the categories that don't count stats, right? He can play 1 through 5. He can eliminate an entire player from the game. The first game the Raptors played without Pascal Siakam were against the Chicago Bulls. And Scotty Barnes went out there and eliminated Patrick Williams from the entire game. When he was on the court, when Patrick Williams was on the court, Williams was non-existent. Barnes was still able to lurk down, get some blocks, play good help defense. He's a tremendous asset both sides of the court. 6'7", 237, 22 years old. Has that point forward ability. And when I mean by point forward, I think of LeBron, right? LeBron can bring up the ball. He can operate the offense. Scotty Barnes isn't LeBron, but he can operate the offense. He can handle the ball. He can tell players where to go, and he can move the ball really well. So I think opening up this opportunity for Scotty Barnes to be like, hey, it's my team. I'm the number 1. I think it's going to be a really good opportunity to see what can he be. Because we know he can be a really good 2 on a championship team. But can he be the 1? Do you have your 1? And this trade will allow for the Raptors to see if they have their number 1. And then looking at Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, same story can be told about them. We know that they are young, good starters on a championship level team. We know Quickley is a starting point guard and Barrett's a starting guard/forward, and in this league, a good starting players on a championship level team. But can one of them step up and be a 2 or a 3? Emmanuel Quickley really getting his first real time to shine as a true guard in Toronto. And then I guess you could say in his entire career, right? Because he was always a 6-man in New York. He had to share the backcourt behind Dennis Schroeder for a little bit, but now he's kind of emerging as like, hey, I'm going to get some more minutes, and I'm going to be that guy out there. I'm going to be that point guard. RJ Barrett, same story. I mean, in New York, he had the opportunity to shine. Like, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't help when you have to play when you're entering your third, fourth season and such with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson are there. In terms of, they're obviously going to get the ball more because they were talented players. They're better. But Barrett now has the opportunity to be like, hey, I can be a 2 or I can be a 3 on a star level team. So I think the opportunities are very fruitful for the Raptors to see if this young nucleus has it in them to be a championship level nucleus, and also find out where they might need pieces. If Barnes is the one and Barrett is a solid guy, well, then you look for a shooting guard or a small forward. Same thing, if those two work out, but Quickly doesn't look like it, then you go and you draft a point guard. You might try and sign a point guard. So I think this is a great opportunity for the Raptors to see what they have in them. But the fact that they were able to secure 3 first-round picks and a good rotation player in Bruce Brown, who they can either leave in there because he can play 1 through 4 offensively, or you can flip for another first, that's a great haul for somebody you weren't going to re-sign. And furthermore, somebody that wasn't going to fit your time frame. Him being 29, Barnes being 22, Quickly and Barrett being 26 and younger. That's a really good trade. That's a really good haul. For Indiana, when I first saw this trade, I was thinking, gosh, dude, why'd they trade for Siakam? Because when you trade for Siakam, you don't trade for him in terms of he's a rental. Like, and you don't trade away 3 first-round picks for a rental. That'd be silly. But when I saw it, I was thinking, why'd they get him? Like, he's due for a contract, and this extension is going to be It's going to be a 5-year deal, paying him about $50 million per season. And I'm like, he's fine. He's 29. He's definitely a good player, but he's not worth that money. He's not worth that. But then I started to think some more. And the big thing I thought about was the Pacers were in this situation early 2010s. They had a young, exciting, in my opinion, a better, more exciting player that I'd want to play around, an elite player, and Paul George, right? He's still top tier. And he was so good on the Pacers, led in the Eastern Conference Finals so many times. And the thing that popped to my mind was, what were the Pacers able to do when they had Paul George? Who were they able to add around him? What players did they bring in to add around him? And there's 2 players that they added around him that weren't already on the team or acquired through the draft. Those 2 players were George Hill and David West. George Hill, 24-year-old when they traded for him from the Spurs. They traded away pick 15 and a second-round pick for George Hill. He was coming off a season where he played 29 minutes a game, scored about 13 points per game, and shot around 50% from the field. His best season in Indiana was, I think, 16 points per game, 45% from the field. He was solid, right? But that's not, a star that's like, whoa, they got him to pair up PG? Come on. And then who was their biggest name they acquired in free agency? It was none other than David West. David West was a 30-year-old coming off a season with the Hornets, the New Orleans Hornets, where he had 10 boards, 15 points. Very very numbers. Signed him to a 2-year, $20 million deal. Good contract, right? But that's who your big free agents pool is? Come on. Really? His first season with the Pacers, he averaged the same numbers, but had about 3 points less. His best season with the Pacers, 17 points, 12 boards, can't shoot a 3. That's fine. Good numbers, for sure. But when those are the 2 biggest pieces you add when you have Paul George, who, I'll be honest, is better than Halliburton is now and will probably ever be. And that's no knock on Halliburton. I hold Paul George in a very high regard in terms of his play style. That means you have to go out there and trade for players and give up some money that you might not usually give to somebody, because who else is Indiana getting? They're not a destination spot for free agency. They weren't going to be, if there's a disgruntled star, they're not going to say, trade me to the freaking Indiana Pacers. That's not going to happen. So if you can bring a guy in who's willing to be there, who's still a top player at his position, go for it. Bring him in. Bring in Siakam. That was a smart move, because there's nobody else that they could bring in. If Paul George couldn't do it, I don't think Halliburton could have done it. Now let's look at how Siakam fits in on this team. When I look at Siakam, when I watched him, I had a couple takeaways and just about his play style. The first one is He can move the ball really well, right? He can pass the ball. He has good ball movement. He has a high motor, conditioned really well. Good ball handling. Like, you can trust him to bring the ball up the court, handle the ball in the half court. He won't turn over the ball. He won't get the ball stolen. He can handle the ball well for a big man. And he loves to score within that 6 to 8 foot range from the basket. Loves to score inside. He loves a good floater from the block where you're backing him up, step back, floater. He loves that. That's his favorite shot. So those are my big takeaways from him. And I think that play style that he possesses is perfect for the Indiana Pacers. Because when you look at the Pacers, the first big thing that stands out to you is how freaking fast they move. They like to run fast. They have good pace. They rank second in the NBA in terms of pace. Pascal Siakam in the past 4 seasons, top 11 in minutes per game. In the past 4 seasons, top 10 in time traveled per game. He runs about 2.7 miles per game. So he's well conditioned. He can fit right in just like a glove made for him because he is well conditioned. He can handle the pace. So they get a player who isn't going to hinder or slow down this team because he's fast. That also goes hand in hand with the ability to move the ball. If you're in transition, you can pass him the ball and trust that he can play fast, run fast, and dribble the ball at the same time. I know that sounds silly, but he can do it, allowing this transition to not stall out. He's also a guy that, in that same area, if he gets a rebound, he can dribble it for a second and then find an outlet pass really well because he has good vision. So he fits this transition offense extremely well. And then the second thing I want to know about Siakam and this team is he fills the biggest hole the Pacers have in their starting 5. I love Tyrese, again, great point guard for that position. Buddy Hield, great shooting guard. Aaron Naismith, I think he's a great small forward. Obi Toppin was their power forward, Jalen Smith, and their center was Miles Turner. So their biggest weakness was power forward, and they fill it in now with a huge upgrade at Siakam. So he's going to bring just a big upgrade to this team in terms of their starting rotation. I think Obi's a great rotational player, but not having Siakam at that 4 is going to do wonders for this team. And then the third thing that kind of stood out to me was his play style. What is it? An inside presence. Indiana likes to shoot threes a lot, and they do it because they are good, because every player can stretch the floor. Obi can stretch the floor well. He's really elevated his shot since joining the Pacers. Turner, we've always known him as somebody that can block and play good defense, but then he can stretch the floor really well offensively. But they never really had an inside scoring presence. And that's what I like about Siakam, because they have an inside scoring presence with him. They can allow him to work in the paint, pass it down low to him, again, get the layups, do his step back fades that he likes to do. Maybe get a rebound. Like, he is somebody that the Pacers really needed to have, because it's nice to have 5 shooters, but it's almost overwhelming because you need somebody that can work the paint, and Siakam can do that. He won't hinder the team because, again, he can pass the ball, he can move, he can do it, but he's really going to elevate this team and bring a new wrinkle to this offense. I also think he's going to help out in this pick and roll game. A lot of the times, the person that screens, for example, for Tyrese is Turner. And what does Turner do? He sets a screen, he drops back behind the arc, and Tyrese passes out, he shoots a 3. Now with Siakam, you run that same thing, but instead of Turner dropping back, you have Siakam crashing in. And Halliburton can dump it in to Siakam for the layup, for the dunk, whatever. Pass it down to Siakam. Siakam then passes it out to the corner for an open 3 for Aaron Naismith or Buddy Hield or whoever it is out there. So I think he's a perfect mold and a perfect wrinkle to this offense that needed something new other than the shooting. They can still shoot the ball a lot, and they will, but now they have a new wrinkle to it. So that's what I really like. Defensively, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, like he can play 1 through 5. He's really going to help this team defensively. Like, I don't think he can play 1 through 5. I don't think he has a lateral quickness to do it. He has another bigger inside presence aside next to Miles Turner. So I think that's good. And at the end of the day, you can't be worse than what they are. I mean, they allow the second most points per game to the opposing team. They're the only team in the bottom 6 that is actually in the playoffs. The next highest is the Hawks, who are 10. And then you have the Spurs, who's 15, Hornets, who are 13, Wizards, who are 14, Detroit, who's 15. So, I mean, if he can provide anything helpful, like that's just going to help this team. I think he is going to provide a little bit more defensive presence. I'm not going to go out there and write home about it like they got a lockdown guy, because he's not the same as who he was on the Raptors when they went to the finals, but it can't be much worse. And then the last thing I'll say about Siakam is he brings valuable playoff experience to his team. Out of everyone rostered, only 5 players have playoff experience, and only one of them has true playoff experience. The first one was TJ McConnell, who was a backup guard on the Sixers. and went to the playoffs 3 times with them, but he was a backup guard. I wouldn't consider that necessarily like valuable experience. Aaron Naismith, he has experience with the Celtics, but he averaged about 5 minutes per game in the 15 game stretch they went on in the playoffs. Obi Toppin, again, he was on the Knicks. They aren't really utilizing him. Not valuable play of experience. Jalen Smith, he had it when he was on the Suns. He played 3 minutes per game in that playoff stretch. Not valuable play of experience. Miles Turner, on the other hand, he does have valuable play of experience because he was a integral part when he was on the court. He was a starting player. Siakam, he's been to the playoffs 5 out of the past 7 seasons. As I mentioned, he won the NBA Finals with Kawhi. He doesn't only know what it takes to perform well in the playoffs. He knows what it takes to perform well when you get to the biggest stages in the playoffs. So I think it's a good addition. They get a player that they wouldn't usually have gotten, right? Sometimes when you're in a market like Indiana, you might have to overpay for a player. But I think it was a smart move. Get somebody who is willing to go to the Pacers and join up and play alongside Halliburton. They get a player that can help them further in the playoffs. I think the Pacers are going to be like kind of where the Knicks were last season, where they're a 4 or 5 seed, plays really well in the regular season, can win the first round, go to the second round. So I like that move. For Indiana, I like the move for Toronto. Opens up more holes for their young guys to go out there and really strive. But again, I really stress the point. Siakam, like let him operate in the inside of the arc. Don't make him just sit out there waiting for a 3 to come his way because he's not a 3-point shooter. He shoots like 32% from behind the arc on maybe 2 attempts a game. Like he's not an effective 3-point shooter. So, second order of business that we have to come down to. Got my notes. I'm prepared. Got my notes. Second order of business is the first playoff game. The Houston Texans going against the Baltimore Ravens. And I want to start off with Houston. I mean, Texans, round of applause. You guys have done really, really well for yourselves. You won the division when nobody expected it. You guys have been terrible for so long. You go out there. Everyone thought Jacksonville had it locked up since the beginning of time. You go out there. You go 10-7. You win your division. That's awesome. That's great. You have a quarterback who is playing beyond his years in C.J. Stroud. He's a rookie. I mean, he's playing super well. You have Nico Collins, who is a young receiver. Didn't really expect much from him. He had about 600 yards the past 2 seasons separately. This year he goes out there. He has 1,300 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. Wow. Dalton Schultz coming alive. Really good. This offensive line has an anchor at left tackle. Really performing well despite all the injuries. Mid-tier. They're playing really well. Defensively, you have guys that are young and older who are outperforming what they were. Either they might be considered past their prime, but they're playing like they're in their prime, or young guys who were, hey, they're not old enough to contribute, but they are contributing at a high rate. You look at Will Anderson and Jonathan Grenard. Grenard, a guy who's been in the league for 3 years, hasn't done much, 12.5 sacks. Will Anderson, a rookie, yes, you expect something from him, but he's been performing really well, 7 sacks this season, really coming in hot, providing pressure. In the middle, you have Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, really clogging up the interior of that D-line. The secondary is looking amazing. Jalen Petrie playing well. Derek Stingley's playing well. Steven Nelson, one of those older guys that has stepped up and played beyond his years. 30 years old, 4 interceptions, like 13 passes deflected. He's really doing a good job. The linebackers, guys that you don't really expect to contribute at a high rate, 3rd-round picks. Blake Cashman, Christian Harris stepping up at linebacker, playing extremely well, over 100 tackles apiece. A rookie coach, you don't think he's going to do much. But D'Amico Ryans has done a phenomenal job. He's young. He's inspiring. He's done amazing in Houston. He's done wonders on this team. A savvy quarterback development offense coordinator in Bobby Spowick. He's done awesome. He's done an amazing job for them. And I go on to say all this because this team really reminds me of the 2021 Bengals that went on to go to the Super Bowl. The Bengals, same situation. I mean, you could compare roster to roster, and it's like you're looking at the mirror with them. Joe Burrow, a young quarterback who you didn't expect much because he's coming off an injury, goes out there and balls out. Jamar Chase, a rookie wide receiver, goes out there and ball out. An offensive line that struggled immensely, but still, held up well enough to allow for Burrow to make it happen. Just like you have questions about this Houston offensive line. Aside from Laramie Tunsil, they got injuries. Can they hold up well? They've held up well enough for Stroud to get the ball out, to find Nico Collins, to find Dalton Schultz. Defensively, you have a mix of these young and these old players that are playing beyond the years. Trey Hendrickson, he was a bit of an unknown coming out of New Orleans with that contract, and he balled out like Jonathan Grenard. Sam Hubbard, young guy, he goes hand in hand with Will Anderson, doing really well. Linebackers, Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt. Corners, Chidobe Awuzie, playing well at corner, young guy. Eli Apple, everyone thought he was past his prime. Everyone thought he was just terrible. played really well. If you want to, whether you want to admit it or not, he played really well for the Bengals, just like Steven Nelson has. Safeties: Jesse Bates, Jalen Petrie, amazing. Dynamic young or head coaches: Zach Taylor, D'Amico Ryans. Savvy quarterback oriented offense coordinators: Brian Callahan getting interviewed for jobs, just like Bobby Spowick is right now too. These teams are very similar, and so I'm going to tell you, like, this wouldn't surprise me if Houston goes on a run because they are built well, they are motivated, and they are just playing with ease, no pressure on their shoulders. They brought a division championship to their city for the first time in years after some horrible seasons, and they're really doing well, just like the Bengals had no pressure when they went out there. I mean, heck, even Evan McPherson was the coolest kid in the block. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to win because they have a lot tougher of a draw with the Baltimore Ravens than the Bengals had when they drew the Tennessee Titans, because the Titans were not good. They were not a good 1 seed. The Ravens are a phenomenal 1 seed. Lamar Jackson, MVP. Zay Flowers, really well, young wide receiver, stepping up. Isaiah Likely doing well at tight end. Hasn't skipped a beat without Mark Andrews. You look at Odell, that veteran wide receiver. He has the experience. I mean, I know you can say he's not the best. He's not what he was. No, he's not. But he's still going to be able to contribute. And when playoff time comes around, the experienced and talented guys, they step up. I think Odell does. Gus Edwards, ground and pound. But offensive line, best offensive line left. Best offensive line, top 3 offensive line in the entire NFL. Ronnie Stanley, booking left tackle. Morgan Moses, great right tackle. Center Tyler Linderbaum, going crazy. D-line, defense, freaking all 3 levels are insane. Their defensive line leads the league in sacks with 60 sacks this season. Justin Matabuka stepping up. Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy, each having 9 sacks this season. Linebackers: Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, best duo of linebackers in the entire NFL. Sorry, Fred Warner, Drake Greenlaw. But I got Queen, Roquan. Tackling machines, can get passes, or deflect it, can drop back in coverage when needed. This secondary, stepping up. Geno Stone playing well. You have Brandon Steffens stepping up, playing well at corner. Somebody that you wouldn't expect, but he played corner 1 when Humphrey was out. So Marlon Humphrey's back. He's an elite corner. So you got those two showing up. Kyle Hamilton, freaking dog. Like, he's a baller. 80 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, showing what he was at Notre Dame. So, all in all, what I'm here to say is, if the Texans were to win, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be surprised, because I think the removal of Noah Brown, so it sounds silly, I think that's going to really hinder this team. I like Robert Woods, but like, it just feels like there's something missing about Houston. It seems like they're missing one more skill guy, because they don't have a running game. Devin Singletary, Damian Priest aren't good. That's what the Bengals had. It was a running game. But they also had an easier draw. And I think the Ravens are proven to be, right now, the team to beat in the AFC. Maybe right behind the Chiefs just because they have Mahomes. But it's just a tough draw to have. Now, I also think this defense is going to be so shut down. It's going to take out the run game. And they're going to apply a lot of pressure, put a lot of pressure on Stroud. I think he has a poise to do well. But the difference between the Ravens and the Cowboys is that, the Ravens and the Browns, I should say, is that the Browns, they got shredded in the secondary. They didn't look like they were prepared. We all know John Harbaugh is going to get these guys readied up. They're going to get them locked in, and I think they're going to do well. I really do. But again, the Texans go out there and win. Wouldn't surprise me. They are built just like the Bengals in 2021. Second game I want to talk about before we wrap this up, Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers. And look, the Green Bay Packers had a great game. Jordan Love, wide receivers, the whole team as a whole, awesome, fun, cool, exciting. I like them. They're cool. I think they're going to be great for years to come. But that year to come is not this year. I don't think it is. Because they went out there and they beat a Cowboys team that were a bunch of they weren't thinking. They weren't playing their best ball. And they got shredded both sides because they were just playing horrible football. Dak Prescott threw two horrible interceptions in crucial times that really just flipped the switch, and the Packers made this game, unsurmountable, because those were costly interceptions, and those are mistakes that Dak didn't make in the regular season, but he made them. And it was more so of a credit to him being a poor decision maker than a credit to this Packers defense making plays. There was no run game in the Cowboys. Tony Pollard was horrible. Like, he's not a good running back. No run game there. Defensively, the defensive line applied a lot of pressure up front. Like, they're a good D-line. I like Mike. I like DeMarcus Lawrence. They're not a San Francisco D-line, but they're a really dang good D-line. But what was their biggest issue? They applied the pressure. Their secondary folded. Why? Because their secondary stinks, man. Their secondary smells horrible. It stinks so bad. It's a bad secondary. I mean, you got out there Stephon Gilmore, who is just not good anymore. Deron Bland had his moments in the regular season, but that was it. There were moments. And he could just, Jordan Love got the pressure. He felt he just tossed up Luce Musgraves wide open. Like Romeo Doubs wide open. Everyone's just open. Like open sesame. That's not going to happen with San Francisco. They're a sound team offensively and defensively. They have talent everywhere, galore. Trent Williams, this offensive line, I think they might give up some pressure inside to Kenny Clark and to Tavion Wyatt because I really like those guys. And the issue with the O-line is the interior. But I still think they'll hold up strong. I mean, they have given Brock Purdy the most time in the pocket out of any quarterback in the league. He has the most time in the pocket. He's pressured less than 20% of his dropbacks. He has the 6th least hurries in the entire NFL. And again, keep in mind, 3 of those games were played without Trent Williams. Trent Williams really evens it out. And I think they're going to allow Purdy a lot of time to operate back there. I think this running game is a lot more dynamic than whatever the heck Dallas had going on. C-Mac's the best running back in the league. He's going to dominate that left side with Banks and Williams opening up holes. He's going to cut right through him. The skills, I mean, a lot better. Like, I love CeeDee Lamb, but Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson compared to having, you could say either one of Debo or Ayuk and George freaking Kittle. Like, come on. Night and day difference. So I think he's going to have more pieces to operate with, and it's going to be a lot harder. Like, Jair Alexander might shut out Brandon Ayuk, but who's stopping Debo? The dude's explosive. He's fun. He's good. He can do it all. Who's stopping George Kittle? Like, you can't match up Quay Walker with him. You can't match up Darnell Savage with him. He's a mismatch issue. He can also help out with blocking a lot, too. Like, he can do it all. He really can. And Purdy, he's not an idiot. Like, he's a good quarterback, and that's what cost the Cowboys. Like, Dak put up good numbers this season. He's a great quarterback. Like, I like him. But he just made horrible reads, like 2 horrible interceptions. Brock Purdy won't make those issues. And that's why he's the best quarterback for the system. Like, a lot of people rip on Brock Purdy saying, oh, he's a system quarterback, he's bad, yada, yada, yada. The thing is, like, he is the perfect fit for this team. Because you don't want a quarterback. Yeah, sure, Josh Allen might have a bigger arm. He might be a little bit more mobile. But he's the wrong quarterback for this team. Why? Because he makes bad decisions. He'll throw a 70-yard pass or interception instead of just taking the open Debo Samuel for 15 yards, allow him to get yards after catch. Like, that's just stupid. Like, do I think Purdy's worth $50 million, in that elite contract level? No, he's not. But is he the best quarterback for this team? Yes, he is. And I don't think if I'm the Niners, I wouldn't want any other quarterback working this system aside from maybe Matthew Stafford. I literally think Brock Purdy is the perfect quarterback for this team. Like, Mahomes is cool, Allen's cool, Lamar's cool. They're all great quarterbacks. Like, they're all like better, worth the $50 million, you could say. But they're not the right quarterbacks for this team. Like, they're not the right fit. And that's why I think Brock Purdy is the right guy, because he makes the right reads. And yeah, people might say, oh, well, Debo's always so open. Brandon Ayuk's always so open. Like, he's not good. Dude, like, is it his fault that he has good talent around him? No. You know what you make the decision off of? He makes the right reads. And also, he's accurate with the football. Like, everyone's always loves the flashiness of a big run from a quarterback or a strong arm like Josh Allen throwing it 70 yards. But accuracy matters. Like, that costs games. That's why Dallas lost. Dak was making bad mistakes. He was making bad errors. He also, had a couple inaccurate throws. And Brock Purdy won't make those mistakes. And so when you have a dynamic offense in terms of you can run the ball well and you can pass the ball well, like, that's going to be impossible to be. That's going to be hard to stop. Like, it won't be stopped. So I really like San Fran in this game. Quick recap on their defense. Like, their defense is going to dominate Green Bay up front. I mean, they have Chase Young, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa. That's a tough task to go against. That's better than the Dallas Cowboys have up front. Dallas already, again, they're top 5 up front, but San Fran has 4 dominant guys. Backups are even better, which makes them even more scarier. Sebastian Joseph Day, Javon Kinlaw, Randy Gregory. These guys are coming at you, and they're going to be coming at you like with full strength because they can rotate so long, and you have talent in the field at every single point in time that it's just going to be a never-ending struggle bus for this offensive line, the Packers. And then unlike Dallas, the secondary of the 49ers can actually move and play well. Charvarius Ward, he's a great corner. He's better than whatever Stephon Gilmore showed me. Like, that was horrible. Charvarius Ward's amazing. Great safety duo. Fred Warner can drop back in coverage. Drake Greenlaw can bring the pressure. Like, this team is built to beat the Packers. They're going to win by a lot. They're going to mollywop them. And Like, look. Last thing I'll say, because it's really bothering me. Like Brock, like is he worth $50 million? No. Is he a Josh Allen, Mahomes? Is he Lamar? No. Is he the best quarterback for this team? Heck yeah, he is. Who would I rather have if I'm the Niners? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, or Brock? Give me Brock Purdy. Why? Because he won't force anything. He won't make bad decisions. He won't throw the ball away. He might not have the strongest arm in the entire world, but I'd rather have somebody that can make the right read, throw the ball accurately on a 20-yard, post to Deebo Samuel than chuck it 70 yards deep to Ayuk and have it picked off. Like, I'd rather have that. Brock Purdy's the right guy for this team, and they're gonna dominate. It's just gonna be boom, boom, boom. It's a force. It's a force that cannot be stopped. So I got the 49ers winning by a lot. I have an A+ trade for both the Raptors and the Pacers. And then for the Texans, Ravens, the Houston Texans are the Cincinnati Bengals for 2021. They have players that are outperforming whatever they should be performing at, right? You have a young quarterback that's playing beyond their years. You have young players that are playing beyond their years. You have older players that are playing like their prime, their best versions of themselves are out. You have young, innovative, motivating head coaches in Zach Taylor, DeMeco Ryans. You have savvy quarterback development to OCs and Brian Callahan and Bobby Spowick. You have a wide receiver one who's really stepped up and found himself after, Nico Collins struggled the past 2 seasons. Jamar Chase, we hear a lot of rumors. He drops the ball a lot. They both went out there and they balled. Basically, they have the same numbers each game as each other. Like, they average the same amount of yards per game, same amount of touchdowns per game. Like, they are the Spider-Man meme. They look at each other the same player. This offensive line, they have an anchor at left tackle. That's a bonus for the Texans that the Bengals didn't have. But then you look at the other side, running backs, I'd rather Joe Mixon, Singletary. But still, productive offense the same way. Defense, you have guys stepping up that you would never expect to step up. Trey Hendrickson came off that contract that big contract after the season with the Saints, and everyone was saying, why would the Bengals do that? Low expectations for him. Went out and balled. Jonathan Grenard, 3rd season in, hasn't really done much. He's gone 12.5 sacks this year. He's balled out. The young DN, Sam Hubbard, you don't really expect too much from him. Had a great season. Will Anderson, he's a top 3 pick. You expect something, but 7 sacks and the pressure he's putting on, that's phenomenal. The interior, BJ Hill, Larry O, DJ Reader, very similar to Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, really takes it up. Space eaters, linebackers, guys that were 3rd-round picks. You don't expect too much from, but they ball out over 100 tackles. They make the right plays. Pratt, Wilson, Cashman, Christian Harris, young, talented secondary players. Chidobe Awuzie, great addition to the Bengals that season. Derek Stingley stepping up, great corner. Jalen Petrie, Jesse Bates, bona fide top safeties in the league. Steven Nelson, Eli Apple, very similar. Players that you might not think about, but whether you want to admit it or not, Eli Apple had a great season with the Bengals. Steven Nelson has done incredible things with Houston. So this team is literally built like the 2021 Bengals. I do think they have a tougher draw going against the Ravens than the Bengals had with the Titans. But by no means should this team ever surprise you if they win and they go as far as they want to go, because they are that talented. They are that well built. They're a well-oiled machine. I do think the Ravens will win because that pressure is going to come down to them. But Justin Motabuke, they're good up front. But the biggest X factor of this game is Lamar Jackson. Can he make the right plays? I think he does. I think that playoff hinder issues in the past is built him for now. But Houston, you guys are the Bengals. I'm telling you, it's pretty darn good. But that wraps up today's episode. I thank you guys for watching, checking this out. Keep coming back, and let me know what your thoughts are.